Live everywhere. Things are served. Now I need to share. All right, I'm shared.
Okay. Howdy.
Hi.
You see, I'm moving the camera much in the same way. A lot of people don't know this. Did you know that Desi Arnaz invented the 3-camera? A lot of people don't know this.
I didn't know this. I knew that Jerry Lewis invented like the video assist. I knew that.
Yeah.
He's the guy.
Now, was Jerry Lewis good to you or not good? That, by the way, that always comes up too.
Was it really?
Right? Yeah, funny. No, it's always Jerry Lewis is a prick, but he was good to me. That comes up a lot with people.
That's funny.
All right, here we go. Ready?
Ready.
Okay. It is the Brad and Britt cast. It is our first one for this week. We're glad you are with us live here in the 1:30 hour here in the East on Facebook and YouTube. And we'd like to welcome Pravda to the Brad and
Pravda.
Britt, which Pravda's not what it used to be. It's not. It's not different. The Russian news. No.
And I hope you had a good weekend. But if you didn't, there's not shit I can do about it. See, that's all I can say. I mean, if you didn't have a good weekend, there's nothing I can do.
Lighting a little bit severe here. Hold on.
Oh no, your face is. No, your lighting is a little. It's like a little intense. There we go. Now we're talking. Now we look like a 1980s police video. There we're going now.
All right. Hey, I got a question. I got a question, sir. And this is rhetorical because I know you don't know the answer. And I don't think anybody does. Maybe a few people do. Where are the statues? Where is Silent Sam? Where are General Lee and General Stonewall Jackson going now that they have finished their Airbnb in the middle of Charlottesville for 100 years?
Yeah.
They've left town. How could we not know what they did with these like we know where El Chapo is in prison. Mm-hmm. We know where the worst people that have, but we don't know what they do with these statues because they are way more controversial. They are way more dangerous than any criminal you can think of. So they must be completely protected in some bunker somewhere, like Dick Cheney after 9/11, right?
That was a
location.
That was a great theme for a number of years. Where is Dick? Right? That was a thing.
But now, right now, it's just statues are hiding out at undisclosed location. What is that?
Gitmo,
what
I believe,
is the deal?
Aren't we talking about closing Gitmo soon? Can't we send the statues down there? Would that be possible for us to send them to Gitmo?
Yes, but the problem is that the medical care there stinks.
Oh,
so you don't want to. That would be cruel and unusual.
So Silent Sam gets a head cold and it's all over. This was the
right.
one of the things that happened over the weekend, some far-right activist protests with Confederate flags at UNC's Unsung Founders Memorial. They protested with some, they're not going to take it anymore. And they've had it with the whitewashing of history, as they would like to tell you that. So that's part of what they decided to do this weekend at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. There's that. So this again, his truth is marching on, Brad. A monument honoring enslaved and free African Americans on UNC Chapel Hill's campus was desecrated on Saturday. Photos and video posted by Twitter on an account called something or other has shown that those people went there and they desecrated it with some Confederate flags there, one of whom is holding a white power symbol. In one of the videos, one of the men can be heard saying, "It would be nice to have a couple slaves." He then made a whipping sound and a motion. So there's what happened over the weekend at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, Brad.
Well, I got a problem. They really do have a problem there. And, I think about this as someone who didn't come to North Carolina until I was, 30, 34, 35.
Right.
And maybe I can't do the math right now. It's too hard.
You would have been, I think, 30, about 31 when you came here to work at Rock 92.
I deny that. And maybe it's just been one big cover up. Maybe the idea of UNC as this bastion of free thought and exchange of ideas and something that was not the stereotype of the South. Maybe it's always been there and it's just been suppressed. And now, in the age of Trump, like a lot of other things, it's now free to be expressed. It's all out there. No need to hide it anymore. It was a bad idea to free the slaves. Let's desecrate a statue in honor of free slaves. That was a bad idea, and I did a great job when they built those original buildings in 1802. They were good for that, but
it was all downhill.
Everything after that has taken away my freedom as a white guy, and maybe that's the problem. That with people that don't understand that freedom is not a zero-sum game. Your increasing freedom does not decrease mine, but that's not how it works in this country right now. It seems that every step forward for someone is met with a backlash, and the step forward sometimes is met with two steps backwards. And you can't even believe we're still having the conversation really about should more people be able to vote more easily, more often in each election. I thought that was kind of a settled idea.
That more participation for voters was good for democracy. You thought that was something that we all could agree on?
I thought it kind of was, but I guess I'm fooling myself, and it never was. And you can go back and just name something that you thought moved us along, whether it was Brown versus Board of Education, whether it was the Civil Rights Acts of 64 and 65, all those kind of things. We thought, well, that moves the country more closer to what's written in the Declaration of Independence, that all men are created equal thing. And even when they wrote the Constitution and made black people 3/5 of a person, that sucked pretty bad. But we're getting past that. It turns out a lot of people haven't gotten past that. They still think that that's probably a good idea. And you know what? 3/5. Let's see. Okay, so that's 60%. If we could knock out 40% of black people from ever being able to vote, that would ensure Republican rule probably all across the board in most places, right?
Well, then
every swing state would be Republican.
Sure.
If they could guarantee that 40% of black people couldn't vote because, not that other 60% doesn't participate. No, there's never 100% participation anyway. So, that 3/5 thing, there was something to it, but kind of in a perverse way, kind of in a sick way now, all these years later. And I'm just free-forming here. I'm just free-forming from what I see.
Saturday's desecration came hours before a pro-Confederate rally in Hillsborough, just down the road, 20 minutes north of the school. In the past month, race relations on UNC Chapel Hill's campus have been particularly tense after acclaimed journalist Nicole Hannah-Jones declined to the tenured night chair position following several weeks of internalized debate on the university's behalf. So there are a number of people that I think what you're saying is true. There was always a bit of marketing involved when it came to the copacetic nature of everybody getting along. And now it just seems that there are some people that are very free and they're feeling their oats as far as minimizing a certain group of human beings.
Well, when I saw the other day that and I'm pretty close on this number, there are 5,000 faculty members in total at Carolina. 200 are black. 200 out of 5,000?
Yeah, way less than 3/5, as it turns out.
No, forget the 3/5. No, drop that. No, that's not the point. How can that be? After all this time, this is where liberalism reigns. This is what?
Well, you either believe that there are not enough folks that are qualified to do that job, and there are some people who would spoon feed you that.
No.
Well, it would be the same reason that there are a lot of people who would tell you that that African Americans are the ones that are being stopped and killed by cops. They would tell you that they're the ones that are causing the problems. That's the reason that's happening.
Well, okay, I'll just let whatever you said go by and say this is a deliberate policy of the University of North Carolina.
It has to be.
That's the beginning and the end. It has nothing to do with we can't find enough qualified.
It has to be. Well, that's what but that's what systemic racism is, and that's what some people don't want to realize. And that's why that's why they resist things like critical race theory, because it's bad. They don't want to see what's really out there. Critical race theory is the truth, and that is systemic racism. That is what has been handed down over centuries here, and that's where we are now. As you say, 200 out of 5,000 folks that are hired as staff and faculty at the University of North Carolina. That's what systemic racism is all about. It's built into the system. And if you can't deal with it, then you bitch about critical race theory and you tell people that it's bad, even when they have no idea what it truly really is.
4%. 4%.
That's not good. That's not good. It's not a good number.
And then when you have the chance to hire Michael Jordan, in effect, for your journalism school, you blow it.
Who has ties to the university?
You blow it. Yeah. I mean, this isn't a question of credentials.
Oh yeah.
You go full racist. You go full racist and screw it up.
Well, and that's why the folks on the campus were like, it's happening in real time. We can see what you're doing. We can see in real time how you're treating African Americans on this campus when you pretend that you're for some sort of semblance of equality, but this person you're giving a hard time to. And she eventually made, I think, the right choice for her was like, F it. If you guys have disrespected me to the 10th degree.
No, there's no way she could come after.
Oh no.
After that, no way. No way.
Quick round of is it too stupid to talk about, Brad? Is Maria Bartiromo too stupid for us to talk about? After an appearance on her show.
No, she really is. It isn't a question of she's too stupid. She's too evil. No, she's too evil.
Okay, now this is always the question. And we talked about this for a number of years with the late Rush Hudson Limbaugh III. Does she really know that what she's putting out there and perpetrating and perpetuating is bullshit, or does she really buy into it, and does she really believe that the election was stolen, that Ashley Babbitt is the same thing on the other end of the spectrum from George Floyd, and that Ashley Babbitt was this wonderful woman who was murdered by a bunch of Democratic thugs on the Capitol on January the 6th. Does she truly believe that, or is she faking it?
Right. And by the way, let me reiterate what I said at the end of Thursday's Brad and Britt cast. No, it was Donald Trump who killed Ashley Babbitt.
Yeah.
That's the beginning and the end. The blood is on his hands. It is
Correct.
not. It is not on the hands of the brave member of the Capitol Police who were defending to the last moment the government of the United States from being dissembled right there on worldwide television by, as Walter Cronkite once said, a bunch of thugs. And just no. Does she know? Do they know what they're? Of course, they know what they're doing. They all know what they're doing, and that can extend to anything that you hear coming out of that group right now. Do they know? Do they know that trying to foster vaccine hesitation, rejection is stupid, is ignorant, is dangerous, is going to kill the very people that are watching and listening to them say these things, while they themselves have clearly been vaccinated themselves? But here's how you own the libs: you don't get vaccinated.
Yeah.
Do they know what they're doing? Of course they do. Of course they do.
Well, I think
it's not even a question,
because this is exceptionally dangerous. I mean, this is like playing with fire in real time. They are dead set now, and the full court press is on to expose the name of the person who was forced to protect the Capitol, ended up killing Ashley Babbitt. They are dead set on that, and they want eventually the marauding thugs to hunt this person down and shoot them. I don't think there's. I mean, is that a controversial statement? Can you parse any part of that?
Well, it's controversial what they want to do. What you said was of course 100% true. We know that because I could be wrong about this, and again, this will be very controversial too, Britt. Just as controversial as what you just said. I think these people do believe in vigilante justice.
Oh yes,
I think their actions
Clearly.
on January 6th were those of vigilantes. So yeah, they want to quote out this person, and they want to start something, and Trump wants to start it, and you know he's all in, and it just gets worse and worse and worse day after day after day, and you can't look away from it.
Well, I feel that between him and the Matt Gaetz of the world, the person's name is eventually going to be out. It may be on some threads right now.
I think it's already been named. There are outlets that have already started to say it, and for the person that did that, for the person who. But guess what's going to happen if something happens to this officer? Yeah, and I don't know if he's still in the force or not. If something happens to him, we'll find out who did it, and they will be arrested. And this is what Trump wants. He wants this cycle, right? Because then those people, they become the next martyrs, right? Because they were arrested by the deep state for doing the right thing, which is finding justice for poor Ashley Babbitt, who just accidentally made her way from Ohio to Washington, D.C., and found herself inches away from bashing through some doors at the Capitol. It could have happened to anybody, Britt. It could have been you. It could have been me that day. And just poor Ashley got caught up. You know, when you go on a tour of the Capitol, when you're taking a tourist trip, you never know who's around you. So she just got caught up in something, and it's unfortunate, and she didn't deserve. That's where it is. It's a never-ending cycle. That's what they want. They want to name this guy. They want harm to happen to him, or hey, how about his family? hey, why don't you play that game too? Go all in with that. That's what they'll do. And then when they are brought to justice, you'll see it happen all over again. So
there's so many.
It's really sick. It's really
there's so
sick.
many offshoots. There's the big lie, and then there's many offshoots of it. He now is the president over the weekend, the former president. Sorry. Well, and as you point out, now there's 2 CPAC conventions every year because there's so much bullshit. You just can't confine it to one.
It's that good.
He's now saying that it was a top Democrat security chief. It's now is what he's suggesting was the one who killed Ashley Babbitt. Now he's not putting that name out there, but he's very much doing it.
Forget what he specifically hints at, or that's like the I'm not going to tell you if I'm going to run, but you're going to like it. All that it's all bullshit. It's just it's all crap. It's all I need attention. It's all don't you forget about me. It's all the only way I can keep the people dumb enough to send checks, to keep sending checks, is to keep dangling this idiotic possibility that I will run in 2024 and all of the legal and 12 ways from Sunday. And you'll have to pardon me, but we watched way too much of Trump yesterday because he went on for an hour and a half. He went on for an hour and a half, starting at about 5:15 or so, just on and on. And you know how when you would watch him, because I know you're too smart to have wasted your time watching this. When he's free forming it and he's reading a little bit off the teleprompter, but he keeps going back to the same subjects over and over again and saying the same thing. I mean, he's like a bad top 40 DJ. He's like a bad talk show host. Hey, in case you're just tuning in, I just said that the election was fixed, and here, it's just over and over. It's impossible. It's impossible to listen to it. And I caught a moment, and maybe I'm the only one that cares or noticed this, but we're always looking for the little mini strokes that go on in his head that are causing him to deteriorate minute after minute after minute. And he was all giddy about the fact that he is going to sue, Twitter and Facebook and Alphabet, Google. And when we heard this, we thought this can't be real. This has to be on purpose or not a mistake. Now you listen, and you tell me what you think.
Taking Mark Zuckerberg's, Jack Dorsey, and the other Silicon Valley billionaires.
Try it again.
We are taking Mark Zuckerberg's, Jack Dorsey, and the others.
Okay, so everyone laughs at him. Now, number one, was that intentional? Mark Zuckerbucks, was it a gaffe when he can't read the teleprompter? Because he didn't try to paper over the mistake if it was a mistake, because you know how he always tries to paper over a mistake, which is he pretends that what he just said wrong was the correct way to do it, and then he says it the right way and acts as if you didn't hear him say it the wrong way. Or is it a hilarious, and again, there's just nothing funnier than Donald Trump on the stump. He's making fun of the fact that Mark Zuckerberg is really, really rich and has a lot of bucks. So he called him, by the way, this is the guy who said in his, I'm rich. I'm really rich. I don't need any of your money. Okay. So here's a guy, think of whatever you want of Mark Zuckerberg. He does have the money. It's real.
Yes, he
does.
He
made it. And he made it in the American system, whatever you think of the American system. So, Britt, you heard it. Was that a gaffe or was that on purpose?
Let me use Occam's razor. He fucked up. He can't read. He fucks up all the time reading it. I mean, we can go. He did this. He did that. The thing was
that's what
fast.
I thought.
He fucked up. I mean, let's be honest. Again, the great Donald Trump, who has so much greater mental capacity and so much better than Joe Biden, he gaffed. The shit came out of his mouth and he fucked up. I mean, that's all that happened. That's the easiest explanation, and that's exactly what happened.
Right, because he pronounced Jack Dorsey's name right, the CEO of Twitter.
Because if you're gonna fuck up, if you're gonna keep doing that, I would go with Jack Douchey. That's how I would have done it. And then all his fans were like, "That's so great." He called him douchey. That's so.
He could have gone racist on the CEO of Alphabet Google, because he's an Indian guy. Was it Sundar Punchar? I believe
was he? What does he do? Go with the Apu pronunciation or something like that? Do some sort of
offensive
Indian accent or something?
So based on the fact that he didn't mess up the other two, and he decided to just go with Mark Zuckerberg's name, I'm with you. That's what we thought. And the people. Did he think people were laughing with him at that moment? Did he know why they were laughing? Because was he aware of the fact that he said that? I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think so. And he's just not that good of a comedian. He is not a malaprop comedian. He's not Norm Crosby or Foster Brooks, or those are old guys. But no, he's not that good. So it was horrible. It was just.
I have a piece of evidence though to undermine what we just said, because apparently they have in Republican circles, he's called Zuckerbucks. So they've got this particular House Republicans introduce in Zuckerbucks Act to stop nonprofit organization donations to election groups. It's quite possible he said that enough times to where that's what it's become in his eyes, other than being an idiot. So I don't know. I mean, it's stupid either way.
How about this? He's still an asshole.
Yeah, sure.
He's still an asshole. And if he thinks that everyone knows that's some kind of nickname, again, that's the inner sanctum of Trump's brain. He was at his worst, absolute worst. And it's hard to say he's never been worse than this, but I'm saying this is as bad as I've ever seen him, where he's standing at a podium and the camera is fixed on him. There are no alternate shots. There are no crowd shots. There is no long shot. It's just one camera trained on him the whole time. And he's talking to this person and that person and pointing at him and saying the name of someone using their first name. And you have no idea who he's talking about. Just none. And he does it. He must have done it 50 times, where he's carrying on a singular conversation. It's so ill. It's so rude. It's so obnoxious. It's so irritating. It's, again, we're not shocked by anything but this overall arching concept that I got out of yesterday, which is that his mind, which is fucked to begin with, is triple fucked by the legal problems that are coming down on him, because this whole new avenue of Don's victimhood, which revolves around everybody else gets away with everything. The Antifas wreck every city and nothing happens to them, which is not true.
Mm-hmm.
But this is how he presents it. Everybody gets away with everything. And what do they do to good, hardworking Republicans? They prosecute them for petty little financial issues. He's talking about himself.
Job benefits. They were like parking benefits and company cars and shit like that. It's how they're trying to portray that.
Everybody else gets away with everything except for him. And another tick that he has is this shifting back and forth between first person and third person.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, where I'm not going to say the name of that person who they're going after, who allegedly didn't pay some little tax here, but and you know he's talking about himself.
Of course.
And then he immediately, it's just, it's so sick.
It's psychotic, yeah.
No, you're being too nice to psychotic there.
Yeah, that's
psychotic needs to take a back seat now.
I apologize to it.
Call it Trumpotic. How about
Trumpotic? Yeah, I apologize to all the sociopaths. Do you think the attention from this event over the weekend is going to satisfy him, and he got his rocks off enough, so he won't have to have one of those fake presidential conferences like he had last week? Do you think that's going to be something? No. It's not enough. No, there's never enough.
No, well, this is a guy. You know, Britt. You know, you and I, we've been fired before. We've been fired from radio jobs where and you know what, for a few days, a few weeks, you think, well, here's what I would have done to here, but then you get on with it. You just move on.
Yeah.
Trump still thinks he's the president. He still thinks he should be making policy. Yeah. He really does. He thinks, and he has jammed this into the minds of a lot of people, since he was robbed of the job, since it was stolen from him, it's almost an obligation for him to continue on as the shadow president.
Well, yeah.
In the case of Trump, the way you continue on as the shadow president is to continue the optics of what you were doing as president, which is, you know, going to speeches, holding rallies, calling in to shows that will talk to you. And then, you know, he can't discipline himself to not just repeat the stupid shit that he's been saying for all these years. He had to throw in on Sunday in Dallas. He had to throw in, you know, I could have had a beautiful life the last few months. I could just sit back now and do, which is what he said the entire 4 years. I didn't need to inconvenience myself to be your president. I could have had a great life. I could have just counting the money, which he probably really doesn't have, but pretending that he did. He didn't need to do that. So, you know, there's no change. I think the interesting dynamic below the surface here is trying to figure out which, if any, family member is going to flip on him. Because if you're Ivanka Trump, if you're Ivanka Trump, you're 40 years old, whatever she is, you got a long runway ahead of you. Okay,
she feels like the one that's most likely. She feels like the one most likely to do it, I think. Yeah. I mean, because she's balls deep in this thing, and she's made, to me, she's smarter than the boys are, and she probably knows things that they don't. I think he couldn't trust them with certain things. So I think she's the one most likely. I think, though, I've given up hope on him going to jail. Are you still all in if he's either a free man or still alive in 2024, or both of those things? Are you still all in on saying that he can't win? Because I think he can win in 2024. I really do.
Well, I think you're underestimating what's going to happen legally here. Just because every day there isn't an exciting new breaking news headline about what's going on, you know, the taking of Weisselberg for a perp walk was a couple of weeks ago, and we really haven't seen anything in public since then. They're not doing nothing, and things, I'm confident, are happening. And grand juries are meeting, and nothing happens until it happens. And then when it does, it is the ton of bricks on your head. And I think that's what's really getting to him, because he knows what they know.
Yeah.
He knows they have the goods. He knows it's on paper. He knows it. And he's out there showboating like, you know, it's just another Sunday in Dallas, just another beautiful day. I think that's what's going on. I think he's freaking.
He's had his ass kissed his entire life. He's had people take the fall for him his entire life. And it's hard for me to believe that at some point in time that stops. I would love for it to. And I looked at he went from around 63 million votes in 2016 to nearly over 74 million votes in 2020. And now, I mean, I know what they're hanging their hat on for 2024 is all of these voter suppression laws that are happening all over the country. That's what they're hanging their hat on, that's going to really rule the day. I just can't believe that he would be counted out. Now, if he goes to jail, I'll be perfectly happy. If Weisselberg decides to roll on him and tell what he knows, or if Ivanka decides to, or if one of the boys decides to roll on their own father, so be it. But I still think there's a chance he could win the presidency in 2024. And I think we have to continue to act as though that's a possibility.
I'm not discounting the possibility at all. But I think there is just too much shit trailing behind him now that is apparent to enough people who, even if they voted for him last year, would see it within themselves to realize that what's best for the country is not another 4 years of Donald Trump, because it works in both directions. The famous silent Trump voters, remember that? Oh, I don't want to admit it in public. I lie to the pollsters, all that other, and that's how he beat Hillary Clinton in 2016. Beat her by minus 4 million votes. That's how he beat her. And then that's how he beat Joe Biden by minus about 8 million votes, right? Because but there are a lot of silent people on the other side. There are a lot of people, a lot of Republicans who did vote for Joe Biden, and using the raw turnout number, the cume, as we like to say in radio, the total number.
That's the large number.
Is irrelevant. I think it's irrelevant because you just had a shockingly high turnout election based on, by the way, all the excellent things that were done in most of the states to help people vote absentee because of the pandemic. And that's the core of the argument right now, as certainly it's going on in Texas. And as we speak, they're trying to squash this latest attempt to pass all kinds of crap in that state. I'll tell you what, I love these Texas Democrats. I think they've got more shit going for them, don't you think?
They're getting ready to bug. If you haven't followed this story, they're getting ready to bug out because this bullshit special session's about to be called, and you can't call it if they're not there. So they're getting this happens every few years when somebody will call, and both sides have done this, but this is completely warranted. They go hide out somewhere. You can't find them. Right. They get the sergeant at arms for whatever body it is and whatever state.
They're going to Washington. I hear they're flying to Washington. They're going to hide out in Washington.
That's great.
I just think that the shockingly high turnout was a fortunate byproduct of the pandemic. And here's the issue. Hey, whatever you did to cause that great turnout, hey, keep on doing it, right? You don't pull back. You don't pretend that was an anomaly. Or do you want to pretend that the high turnout was only because of the love Trump, hate Trump vote out there? I'm sure there's a lot of that. But you can't hang your hat on that. And
this is the narrative that's being put forth and hammered into people's heads every day. That Joe Biden's America is a lawless place where you and your family are at danger, and you need Daddy Trump to come back in there and restore law and order. That is the narrative that's being put forth to people who would be open to this sort of argument.
Well,
and they're doing it every day.
Well, I understand that. But to be fair, and we have to be fair about this, there are a lot of pockets in this country. There are cities in this country where it's gotten pretty ugly. In Asheville, North Carolina, when you have, a quarter of the police force just saying, fuck it, I'm done. And they're short, 100 officers or whatever the number is in Asheville. It's a real thing. Of course, the big lie associated with this is because Democrats wanted to defund the police. They ran on defunding police all over the country, and they have suddenly defunded police everywhere. So that's why crime is up. That's why it's high. As if
the situation
as
in
if
Nashville.
Wait, hang on. Let me finish. As if in Chicago, in the shittiest parts of Chicago, every weekend, the people who are armed to the teeth with illegal handguns and shit, they're going, man, boy, 2 years ago when Trump was president, I would have never done anything bad. But now that Trump isn't president, it's go. And let me shoot a 6-year-old here through a window. I wasn't going to do it, but Joe Biden says I can do that.
Yeah, why not?
But and we know that the oldest cliche ever: perception is reality, and the perception right now is that crime is through the roof, and it's a problem. And if Democrats don't step up and do something about it, they will lose, and they will lose in key precincts and in the suburbs of these cities.
Well,
that could reverse exactly what happened in 2020, at least at the presidential level.
Defund the police is an albatross around the Democratic Party's neck right now. And you can fight it any way you want to, but as we talk about, if you're explaining, you're losing. Defund the police is a cancer to the Democratic Party, and the Republicans will bring it up every opportunity they can, and they will do it day and night. They'll put it on billboards, they'll put it on TV, they'll put it on anything they possibly can. The thing that's going on in Nashville has been happening over the past several years, including at one period in time, I think they had 3 different police chiefs in the space of a year a few years ago. So it's not just because, those officers aren't being allowed to do their job. It's not any of that. It also has to do with the cost of living in Nashville skyrocketing over the past 10 to 20 years and the pay scale for those guys not being able to keep up. There's a lot of different things that happen, but people won't accept that. It fits into their little box.
You're explaining.
Exactly. So people don't care, and they'll be able to just throw that in Joe Biden's face and go, look, your kid's going to get raped. Your store's going to get robbed. Put Donald Trump back in office, and he can fix it. And he alone is the only one who can fix it. That's what they're going to do. At least the other side wants to defund the police. If he runs,
but I'm not so sure that a 78-year-old Donald Trump is going to be running for office. But okay, I'll go with it.
Speaking of Asheville and Western North Carolina, is it too stupid for us to talk about? Madison Cawthorn, the great representative from Western North Carolina, says that the door-to-door vaccine asking program from Joe Biden is just the beginning of them snatching your Bibles and your guns, and he's holding to it. Brad, is that too stupid for us to talk about?
Well, Bert, I'd like to know how this works. Now, would you be better off to bring your Bible and your gun to the door when you open it and just hand it over instead of what? So
they is
this? Yeah,
they can have my Bible when they take it from my cold, dead hands.
Yeah,
they can. Yeah. That's when they can have my Bible.
Right, but here's the bottom. The bottom line is there is nothing too stupid for them to say that will not be commented on by any other Republican.
Yeah.
He will not be denounced. They will not separate themselves from him. This is a classic. I didn't hear him say that. I don't know anything about that. I don't think that's going to happen, but who knows? You give those evasive answers if you are another Republican presented with this. And you want to talk about scraping the bottom on trying to get people to not take a vaccine. Well, this is just a kind of a corollary to that, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm free to not get a vaccine because I'm an American, right? You're impinging on my freedom if you tell me to get a vaccine. And not only that, how dare you knock on my door urging me to get something that I've given great thought to. Great thought to. And if you do that, I hear you want to take not just my freedom by forcing me to get this experimental vaccine that we don't know works, except for the fact that 99.5% of everyone who has died in the last 6 weeks or so across the country, 99.5 magic percent of people. Triad radio referencer.
It's now mixed 99.5.
Right. Have been unvaccinated.
Mm-hmm.
Now you want to take my Bible and my gun. I'm defenseless. You know, I don't care if I'm defenseless against the COVID virus, but I do care if I'm defenseless in terms of my gun and it's just bottom feeding to unimaginable levels. And I guess we have to try to stop imagining it because we can't think that way. It's pretty difficult, but
there's no imagination.
But is there a story associated with that? I mean, do we have a comments actually made in response to him saying that?
The only person Kevin McCarthy's going to speak out against is Liz Cheney. He's not going to speak out against Madison Cawthorn for saying that. He's not going to denounce him for that.
But this is my question. Has anyone been asked about this yet? Are we to that point yet? Has anyone been asked to respond?
I don't know if they're on vacation or they haven't, but I haven't seen any reaction from anybody of any substance to this situation.
Yeah.
This is one thing that they feel like was a moment of truth. Unfortunately, Trump has a shocking moment of honesty during CPAC's speech, says straw poll is only accurate if it's good for him. If it's bad, he'll just say that it's fake.
All right.
Actual quotes from the president. So you must have seen him say this.
Right. Well, here's why. Let's just move on because he's been saying this for 5 years. It's been a laugh line to him, right?
Yes.
If the polls are great, they're the greatest poll ever. If not, it's a shitty poll. Let's move on. I mean, there's nothing new about that. And Mediaite should not take the bait and just keep pumping that kind of stuff out there. Because remember, this is a comedian who, his writers have all been fired.
Yeah.
He didn't have very many of them anyway.
No.
And he was repeating the same lines, year after year anyway. So this is not a new thing. Yes, I believe the polls. They're great when they are favorable to me. They suck when they don't make me look good, and they're liars. Next,
but the Governor DeSantis, his marketing is working beautifully because you saw in the poll when you put Trump in the mix, he's by far the guy. He's the nominee in 2024. If for some reason, as you mentioned, he's behind bars or he's underground, he's 6 feet under, DeSantis is the guy. He's well ahead. I think Pompeo might have been second, but he's like well behind Ron. So DeSantis, in terms of being the guy, the asshole that's going to carry on the Trump torch, he's positioned himself perfectly for that, Brad.
I don't think it's of any value to try to handicap 3 years out who will be the next nominee. Did we know who was going to be the next nominee 6 months after the election in 2016? No. Who was going to be the Democratic nominee? No.
No.
It was Joe Biden. Joe Biden wasn't even going to run then.
No, but there was not an ideology that was being championed by one of those people who had just been put out of power. There was not. This is the guy. And the guy who has positioned himself as the guy to be the guy, if the guy's not available, is DeSantis. He's that. If DeSantis should drop dead of a heart attack or get COVID and pass away, it might be Greg Abbott. It might be, a couple of other guys. But DeSantis, I think, has positioned himself. I'm the man. I am the chief, because I don't believe that his stupid children. Again, I don't believe that Eric or Ivanka, Don Jr., Zeppo, Gummo, or Harpo are going to be the ones. I think you saw the tea leaves when Laura Trump couldn't even muster up a Senate campaign in North Carolina. Remember that fantasy? Remember that fantasy from earlier this year?
Britt, I think you're talking, you're straw manning it here, because it really isn't a family dynastic a possibility that we have to worry about from another person named Trump. I think
I certainly hope that that's the case, but I think you're underestimating the stupidity of these people that would carry his name forward and his movement forward. There are a lot of people who are very invested, and it's not a small number of people who are super invested in bringing this guy back to power. Again, it went from 63 million in 2016 to 74 million in 2020. That's a significant. That's significant.
Yeah, but it's almost ancient history in terms of the raw number now, I think.
Okay.
Especially because since we have this horrible system, and it is a horrible system.
Yeah, it is.
Of electing presidents, the Electoral College. It is a disgrace. It is a disgrace to the rest of the world.
It is.
It's our own disgrace, and the rest of the world thinks we are crazy. Every other country
and they're right.
We are crazy, and they are absolutely right that we do not have majorities of voters who decide who the president of the United States will be. It just so happens that, almost every time, except for 4 times, the majority has ended up electing the president in concert with the Electoral College. But that's not good enough, because we've had, twice in the last 20 years, it hasn't worked out that way. We've had minority presidents, and the Republican game plan going forward is to keep electing more Republican minority presidents, minority in terms of the number of votes that they get across the country. They're more than happy to let California vote 40 million to nothing for a Democrat. They don't care because you don't get any more electoral votes if you win unanimously in California than if it's a close race. So there's no sense in even taking a shot at it. And until that changes, we're stuck in this, 6 states, maybe up to 8 or 10, that have some chance of going either direction in every presidential year. As far as our lifetimes, we'll be long dead before there are more swing states. And I think we'll be long dead before fucking Texas becomes one. I'm so sick of hearing that shit. I am so sick of hearing that shit. Make it happen, Texas. Make it happen. If Texas could make it happen, it would be game over. It would be game over, because you'd have New York, California, and Texas, and they can have Florida. That's game over.
This is the final stop on Is It Too Stupid to Talk About? Democratic socialists ignore Cuban protesters railing against communist dictatorship, according to Fox News, with some, including the great Stuart Varney, asking, where are AOC and Bernie Sanders? Where are they in these Cuban protests? It's because they support that Cuban communist government, Brad. That is the narrative here.
I don't know anything about what they are saying about what American lefties, far lefties, are saying about protests in Cuba. But I'm just guessing that they at Fox, and Stuart Varney, who's a piece of shit, is lying, and that Bernie Sanders and AOC have not said supportive things to the communist Cuban government in response to a quest for freedom, in a request for food, in a protest for vaccines. I'm just guessing that, and that's being mischaracterized on purpose, because this is what they do at Fox. They immediately want to try to make this divide here. I'm just guessing. Yeah. Well,
no, but he's silent. He hasn't said anything. He's silent. He's
silent to who? Silent to who? To Fox News?
Yeah, he hasn't been on Hannity. He wasn't on Hannity one time this weekend, Brad. Not one time was Bernie Sanders. He didn't go on Jeanine Pirro's show once to talk about it. But that's also, don't you feel that's part of the narrative? Is that this is what?
Well, of course, Britt, that's it's always going to be that way. This is the equivalent, in this case, of when Fox does a story, media explodes over blank. It's not the story that is important. It's mainstream media says blank about shit. This is how they portray everything.
Mm-hmm.
This is how they portray everything. No, and I've heard Sanders before interviewed about Cuba. He had no love for that regime. He had no love for Fidel Castro. He had no love for that system. That's not democratic socialism in Cuba. That's a fucking dictatorship. And there is a difference. But in the simplistic world painted by Fox, expressed in those headlines that you read, no, there isn't, right? Because remember, all they say is, if you elect Joe Biden, we're going to be like Venezuela. We're going to be like Cuba.
That's right.
So this is a perfect chance to jump in there and lie about it and try to position themselves on the side of the Cuban people. You know, on the side of the people for whom the American boycott for the last 60 years has, at some level, helped impoverish the island, whether you want to admit it or not. Yes, their system sucks. Yes, they're dictators. Yes, but if we would have been more freely trading with them all these years, they would have a better country, at least. And now that the Castros have faded from the scene, right, the president of Cuba is not a Castro for the first time. So
is he
that one's too stupid to talk about, which we just talked about it, because I know it's a lie. I know it's a distortion.
Exactly.
And I know that they're just trying to reposition everybody. So not buying it.
Too stupid.
Yeah, too stupid. All right. We'll be back again with another one of these on Tuesday. Now, Britt, I want to tell you and anybody who's still with us that on Tuesday, it could be a crisis in the middle of the Brad and Britt cast.
Oh no, what's happening?
I have a plumber, and it's the old, he's going to call between 1 and 6.
I do love
while
that.
we're doing this.
Yeah.
And you can be guaranteed that, of course, he will call during that short part of the between 1 and 6 that we're doing this Brad and Britt cast, right?
Any other time it would have been fine, but yeah, that's
right.
Exactly right.
Any other time. So I'm just putting out the warning. So if you see me look over and pick up that phone, you know what happens. So.
It's the plumbers using the old cable window. That's how they would always do you when it came to cable, right?
Yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah.
See you tomorrow.
All right.